having me run the stream today is a mistake.
It'll be fine.
Welcome to the Underground QA podcast. I can't even get the sound cues correct. This is what happens when you put me on the soundboard. But welcome to the Underground Game QA podcast, a podcast about quality assurance in the video game industry. My name is Curran Adams, and my pronouns are she, her. And we have 4 fellow QA professionals joining us today, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, friends. My name is Chris Rando, and my pronouns are he, him.
Hello, my name is Myron Parks, and my pronouns are he, him. What's up, y'all?
Oh, sorry. I think we're all like totally spaced out this morning. Hi, I'm Ariel Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a test discipline manager at Bungie.
And hi there, I'm Marcin Pieprzowski, and my pronouns are he, him.
A disclaimer for today, all individuals appearing on the podcast are not doing so as official representatives of their respective employers and companies, and the opinions expressed here are their own. Man. Y'all thought I had it together in the pre-show this morning.
All right, legal jargon is hard. Getting the speed correct it's an art.
Well,
so today,
like the expediting part is like easy for you, probably, Chelsea. Like, all right, here's what we're gonna do, and then it's like, oh shit, we're doing it. Damn.
So today we are here doing a year in review, and what a year 2022 has been. Wait, I'm having deja vu because I just said this a year ago in the intro for the last year in review. And depending on where you were, the pandemic continued on, actually maybe restarting in some places, and lives are changing across the world. Our community grew immensely from just over 100 about a year ago to over 500 today. 500 quality-minded professionals who are interested in the game industry. We've hosted 6, now 7 episodes in 2022 with topics focusing on craft skills and career impacts. We've been driven to talk in channels about the continued crisis in the industry, and if you don't believe it's a crisis, you should make sure that you're checking in on your industry friends. We've also celebrated innovation and expansion across the industry as well this year. And congratulations to many of you who are in brand new studios, indies, released big projects, and done the hard work. Today, we want to bring the conversation back to the community again, to you. You're the reason why we're here, and we want to talk about it. How we're here, who we are. And we took to socials to asking some questions about our year, and we want to get together to review that and to pay, respect to you. Today's episode might be a little bit longer than usual. We usually aim for about 60 minutes, but we might go a little bit over just depending on the conversation. But the first part we want to talk about is the show and the community. And then the second half, we'll talk about the industry as a whole and your comments. So let's go ahead and get started. Lightning round, the thing that we love starting off with here. Game Awards, hot takes. What was there? What wasn't there? What did you expect? Who won? Who didn't win? What do you got for me? Go ahead and hop in whenever you're ready.
I think the biggest surprise for me was how many categories Stray showed up in. I was really not expecting to see it even nominated for some of the categories that it was nominated for, but it is a great little game, and I was glad to see it there.
I would like to point out that not only was it awesome that Christopher Judge won for Best Performance, but that they gave him a lot of time to talk and give his acceptance speech. I've seen enough award shows, games and otherwise, where they just play people off real quick, but they let him have his moment, and it was awesome.
And I'm really happy that Moss Book 2 won the VR game, because it's a really cute game. And I love the first one, and I love that the second one showed up, and it won, because it deserves it. It's very cute, and it's very awesome.
That little VR mouse is precious.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cute.
Yeah, I would say the first thing that, from my perspective, from the Game Awards show is like Elden Ring. But this may be just because I tend to stray away from what everyone says is like the sure thing. but it almost seems like it was like the Tom Hanks movie. You know what I mean? Like it's released around like late summer before August though, makes to make sure the maximum number of people are there. So they drop it, and then it's got all the right pieces, and it's game of the year. But like I don't see a revolutionary advance over even Demon Souls. The mechanics are more advanced. The graphics are more advanced, and there's a significant amount of enabling technological advancement that goes into that. But game of the year?
What
I
would
don't
you
know.
have picked for game of the year?
I would have picked Demio actually, VR, Demio VR.
Really?
I would pick Demio VR. If you've never played Demio VR, you have no idea what VR capable of right
Wow.
now.
I mean, these are hot takes, but I'm not honestly surprised by any of them. I was
It's a
expecting
hot
more
take,
spice
right?
here.
Like my hot take is the hottest.
Your hot take
That's
is the
real
hottest
spicy.
take. But I'm not at all surprised by Ryan having the groundbreaking hot take. You've had them over the years. I'm not
But I do.
not yes, it is.
Right.
I think for myself, like I'm just happy that we are paying proper respect to our feline overlords. Because if anybody lives with a cat, then you realize that they deserve, all of that. Okay, let's kick it off with, I think, the most impactful discussion that we can have, which is talking about test plan creation. We had 2 episodes devoted to it. It was a big series. What did y'all take out of the test plan discussion or the episode? What did we miss? What did we get to that you really enjoyed?
I think that. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like this is just a real quick one, but it wasn't until like working on that episode where I actually heard of the acronym FLIRPs and really had it spelled out for me, and that was a large takeaway because just having such a ridiculous word, like Chelsea, I've seen some of your reactions with some of the acronyms I've thrown out recently, but
man.
yeah, there's some good ones, but FLIRPs, just having it be such a ridiculous word, but having all of those letters stand for something that's so foundationally important with building out a test plan, like really helped me like refocus and look at the way test planning, a good method for test planning.
Ariel, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think that I really like those episodes because a lot of the time I feel like we're kind of like up in the clouds talking about stuff on a philosophical level, and those felt like we were actually like taking some of the things that we talk about and applying them in a real way that people can observe. And then I think that makes it a little easier for folks to then try and execute themselves as they've seen an example of it that they can work with instead of just hearing someone kind of lecture at them. I mean, I love all of our lectures, but I think that those 2 episodes, it was just great that we could do something very like activity oriented for how we were tackling the topic. Because we'd already talked about test plans, but it's different to like, here's an example of someone writing one.
Yeah.
For me, it was reminding me how complex it is, because the routine of just being like just create a test suite or just create test cases or do a report is like you don't think too much about it, so you think it's it's just a daily routine, like brushing teeth or whatever, and then going through those episodes and discussing that, and it's like, damn, there's so much pieces to go look, and all those pieces are super crucial, important. So it was like a good going back to the basics and reviewing what's important and making sure that you have the overall, everything in your head, because you cannot overlook the details.
There's like that seeing the forest through the trees kind of thing. Like you can get so focused on like this little gameplay element, but to like really like step back and like, okay, you have to look at how everything connects and all these different systems work, and then start identifying where we need to put our focus. That's a good point. I like that.
And like Chris, I love that you mentioned system. So in the previous episodes on craft, specifically test planning, test cases, and things of that nature, we talked about like why you need a test plan. And so throughout those series and even when planning for the test plan episode this year, the I was looking at it from the system perspective. And I realized there's a significant problem that's affecting the lives of people who make games. People who buy games don't understand how software is made. And it's really, and so in those episodes, it was very important to me to make sure that people are understanding the reasons we have to do these things so they can understand the complexity, so that they understand what software development is, because they're treating it like people are making burgers at McDonald's. And
It
that's
is
why
an
the people who are
interesting.
in the gaming, yes. Go ahead, Chelsea.
No. Go ahead. I mean, I think you bring up an interesting point. Finish it off.
And so so people think that they're getting physical goods that are made like McDonald's. But in fact, the games are being made almost exclusively in the complex domain, where things are being done for the first time every single day. People need to understand that. That's not like making an assembly line product. Well,
Yeah.
it's just a rescan.
Oh, that's a classic one. That's
Oh,
a great
goodness.
one. Yep.
Yeah.
Just click a button and make multiplayer.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Or
Yes,
it takes
that
like
is how
6
it
months,
feels.
right?
And it's interesting because we will also anticipate that the quality bar stays the same. And so I think one of the biggest mistakes I see with test plans over time, we're almost a year out from that discussion, is that you can copy pasta the format. You cannot copy pasta the contents. And so I just, a piece of advice going forward, and maybe this is where we'll go with this if you have a quick piece of advice. But the most important part of the test plan is the conversation about the why and, what the priorities are. And so I think what I challenge you to do as you start to expand on these skills is to really remember that copy pasting is what we're often encouraged to do, but it's very important that we don't. Do y'all have any other quick pieces of advice around test plans?
Yeah, align on the goals. Align on the goals. Ask the question. Because they're going to say, you're here to make sure this works, so break it. But you need to ask what the actual goals are. If the goal is actually to release it on X date, no matter what, to obtain a strategic objective, then you will actually be enabled as a quality practitioner to join the team.
Yep. Agree. What else?
I was going to
Please remember
say,
about maintenance.
I think it's important to think about what you're not going to test as much as what you are going to test, and
Yes.
account for that in your plan too. Going back to copying and pasting, if you just copy a previous test plan and then add to it, right, like all of the new stuff, then you're just going to wind up kind of like building up more and more things that need to get tested over time. Instead, every time you come and create a test plan, you should be thinking, what don't I have to test? Because I already tested it before and there hasn't been anything significantly changed in that space, or it's
I
low
love that
risk and I
advice.
can ignore it, or I don't have enough time, whatever. Think about what you're not testing as much as what you are testing, and don't test things deliberately.
Yep. Oh, I love that idea. Marcin, you were going to say something. What do you got?
Yeah, I want to bring my boring project management mindset, but please remember about maintenance. Like though you can go sometimes crazy and create hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of test cases, but those at some point you'll have to update them or do something with them, and you will not be prepared for the cost it takes to maintain those.
What
So
did you
never
say about
forget
living
that.
documents, Chelsea?
Yeah.
What was it?
Oh, if your
Oh
document
God!
isn't living,
Don't
it's because
commit
you murdered it.
murder. Yes. Yes. Don't
Yep.
commit
Test case
murder.
is the same.
I quote that at work on the regular.
It's true. Chris, anything for you before we switch on to the next episode?
A lot of what I would have said, these fantastic humans have already hit. So
And they truly
I
are
would have just been
fantastic.
kind of building on the same things that they would have said.
Well, episode 3 this year, we had Leland Dantzler come and talk to us about interviews and did an interview workshop. What did you take out of the interview episode? What do you believe the biggest barriers were? What did you learn that you didn't know? What surprised you? And why is Leland one of the best guests we've ever had on the show?
Because he's my boss.
It was good.
No.
There you go. That was it.
Um,
I would definitely want to say that the biggest going to like biggest barrier for entry for interviewing that I think was a really cool part that we hit on during the discussion was being able to translate, identify your relevant work to game industry QA.
Yep.
Especially for those going for entry level positions, because it can be very easy to say like, well, I like video games, but like, how do I say that I have the mindset and the skills and the abilities already to come into games QA and be able to interview and say like, yeah, here's the work that I've done that shows that I'm good at problem solving and critical thinking and my communication skills and all those base things that we look for in like a good candidate. It's that relevant work. Trying to identify that I think is probably one of the biggest barriers.
I didn't see the episode, but I would say, I'm sorry, Ariel, I'm just going to finish this. If that's okay, if that's cool.
Go for it.
All right. When it comes to interviewing, one of the main things, particularly as you were saying, Chris, when you're breaking into an industry or you're going for your first job or you just got the credential and you're trying to get a job and people are telling you don't have the experience and you're like, hold on a second, right? Understand that at least 70 to 80% of hiring managers don't know how to do it.
Whoa!
That's backed up by Forbes. Forbes says that 60 to 70% of the people who have quit their jobs during the great quit or whatever, they've done it because they've had no direct care given to them about their growth, about their career, about what they're doing, about who they are from their direct leader. 60 to 70% of all the people who have quit their jobs have quit because of that reason.
Okay, so you're talking about like people don't know how to kind of like manage and coach testers.
Can someone else translate? Does anyone else understand what I said?
Or write the automation, right? So like the hiring manager may not be the person who writes the automation. So when they ask for, hey, just automate the thing, they're like, just do it. And you're like, no, that's not the way it works. Also, people who ask for like, just make automation that plays a game. Yeah. So I actually, Myron, I think Forbes is right there. It's a super good point. Definitely.
Yeah, I know. It blew my mind.
You were going to bring up something about the episode.
I just wanted to tease out, like, what were the, like, when they say 60 to 70% of hiring managers don't know how to do it, like, what are all the things that they're saying they don't know how to do? Is it one specific thing, or is it just, like, they don't know how to do their job at all?
They don't know how to hire. They don't know how to grow people, and they don't have any skill in leadership at all.
Yeah,
it's when I became a manager, I didn't have any skill in management. I was a manager one day.
Yeah. I think that a lot of companies don't have explicit manager training, and so what they do is they take individual contributors who are really successful in that role, and they just throw them at management and say like, well, you're really smart, so you'll figure it out. But it's actually like an entirely different skill than the things that those ICs have been doing prior to that. And then what sometimes happens is like, oh, well, the hiring manager is just the most senior version of those people, but still maybe never explicitly got any kind of hiring manager training. I see hiring manager training and manager training more at like bigger companies that can like kind of afford to invest that time, but at a smaller company, like it's super difficult to, unless there's someone there who already knows how to manage people.
So to pull us back to the Leland episode, this is great discussion. I love it.
Oh, that was awesome.
I told y'all I was going to be hard on the time frames. What other things did we learn from the interviewing episode, or do we want to share?
For me, it was reinforcing the culture fit aspect of the interview for both the person that is hiring, but also the person that is going for the interview and wants to be hired. And people, both hiring managers and the people that are on the interviews, putting too much emphasis on just the skill set and not thinking about other parts like how the company is treating workers, how your manager will be helping you and supporting you in your role, and having all those things. Like talking with around this topic was with Leland was very good, and was like, I'm doing the things correctly. Was very happy to hear that this is a very important aspect of that interview. It's not just only are you going to do the work that you promised to do, that we will be happy working together and we'll be happy with our cooperation. That's super, super important.
Yeah,
So
I do
important.
really like the approach of that. This is something that Myron has talked about in the past too, but talking about it as culture add instead of culture fit, because culture fit is how you wind up with studios where every single person in the studio is a white man, because you want people that fit in with the existing culture, which in a lot of companies' cases happens to be white male culture. So like trying to find people who add something and bring new things to the table and otherwise like fill gaps that you don't have. That's what diverse teams do, is they fill gaps. Whereas, like creating a team that's more of a monolith, and everyone's the same, like you're not going to have as diverse ideas in that space. And honestly, it's probably not a team I would want to be on.
But it's a good reminder to stop saying culture fit and start saying culture add.
Any other last thoughts?
I always really like the emphasis on looking for curiosity in my conversations with Leland about hiring, and that's something that we talked about in the episode too. But just having people who are curious, will ask questions, won't take things at face value, and are willing to like dig deeper. That's huge. It's such an important part of being a good tester, and so it's one of the top things that I look for when I'm interviewing people is how curious is this person.
Great advice on that. I always love it when people ask good questions, not just
Good questions.
What's the typical day?
I'm going to fill the void with all the questions I have. It's like, okay, but are they good questions, or are you kind of wasting time or trying to look curious or something like that? Like, the key is having really actual good questions.
I guess one more thing to add to that, because that's just a great topic, but also not being afraid to ask those same questions, because usually to different panel members, because usually these interviews for companies tend to be gauntlet panels. You don't just talk to three people and then they go like thumbs up, thumbs down. You've got like literal hours of talking to multiple groups of people from different backgrounds, walks of life, different disciplines within the industry or within the company, and being able to say, all right, I'm going to ask these questions, but I'm going to ask them everywhere, and not be like, well, this engineer over here already answered my question, so I don't have to ask it again, because the producer or the design director might have a completely different take on what you're going to ask.
Yeah, I think interestingly, we tend to, I don't think I've ever had feedback around this person ask the same question, but rather that they didn't dig in to ask the right questions. So I think that's the key. Let's move forward to bug prevention, which I think is a unique thing. When we brought up the topic of it, it was how do we not just find bugs, but how do we prevent them from happening? You've probably heard buzzwords like shift left being the only component that we talk about for bug prevention, but we talked through it in the episode. Did y'all walk away with anything that surprised you, kind of delighted you when it came to bug prevention, how we walked through the topic?
I was really glad that we got to talk about it, for one, because it's I think it feels new to me, in part because like I haven't really heard about bug prevention at a lot of the companies I've worked at until very recently. And I wish I had known about it sooner, because I feel like it would have just drastically affected my approach to how I was handling like pre-alpha test work. Like, I think there's so much more I could have been doing to prevent bugs at that stage in some of my projects. And so for me, the usefulness was really kind of hearing some like good concrete examples of things we could pursue with bug prevention at those earlier stages, because I feel like that's where I was struggling the most.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Arrow, because that kind of just like lack of knowledge around the concept or just hearing about it from places you work is a big leading factor as to why I made those, like, set up those roundtables at GDC a few years ago and wanted to have that conversation in a larger setting, because I felt like in my local circles that it wasn't getting talked about enough, and it was definitely an idea and a thought process that should be discussed more, and we should be putting more effort into and really communicating out, because it really helps advocate what QA brings to the table as a discipline to development. So I'm really glad that it is like a kind of like, man, I wish I'd heard about this and known about this way earlier, and this way of looking at it earlier, but like, now, and we can continue having the conversation and pushing it out further, so we can continue advocating for quality by proving like we can keep bugs from happening if we follow these methods, if we have these conversations, if we assess risk, if we push back when needed, all that fun stuff.
That's part of why I just love spending time with y'all, is I feel like I've learned so much from the four of you.
Yay.
It's crazy how much information is shared in the channel too. If you're not a member of the Discord, or you know, like, you mildly pay attention, it's really beautiful to see people ask questions about the possibilities. And I really am very proud to be a part of this community, not just for y'all, which it started out as a group of people who just wanted more from the industry and couldn't find it anywhere else. But I think now we do pretty darn good of supporting each other.
There's so much good content there. Like any minute not spending there is for me. It's I feel guilty if I'm not constantly looking at the Discord channels, because there's so many good knowledge there being shared.
There's a good discussion going on even this morning.
Every day.
Let us move forward. So the idea of escape defects, maybe we didn't prevent the defect, maybe it went live. We had guest Trevor Page come talk to us about escape defects. Do y'all have any exciting moments you want to share about Trevor being an excellent guest? You know, I don't want to say he's better than Leland or not better than Leland, but I'll say...
I'll say that. I think I'm fine saying that Trevor's better than Leland.
Wow,
Leland,
okay.
if you're watching, Trevor is... I'm sorry.
Continuing the hot takes segment of today's program.
Yeah, it's good. It's you come to this community to get spice, and we serve.
Spice the clock.
Yes.
Something that Trevor really honed in on was the idea that data tells a story. And you can use data to tell all kinds of stories, and you can use the same data to tell all kinds of stories.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it's very easy to pervert data and use it for the wrong things and kind of look at it the wrong way. I think there is this... God, I'm trying to remember it, but there was this study that was done where people were asked to look at a couple of sentences about whether or not they would save 200 people or let 400 people die. It was like
The trolley problem.
It's kind of like the trolley problem, but it was the same. It was the same situation, but slightly phrased differently. So you had 600 people, and there was a chance of you could either have a chance of all of them to survive, like a 1 in 3 chance that all 600 would survive, or you could have a guarantee to save 200. And depending on how you framed the problem would determine whether or not people would pick one option over the other. So if you say you're guaranteed to save 200, then people would be more likely to pick that option. But if you say you're guaranteed to lose 400, then people are less likely to pick it. And it's all about how the data was framed. But it's the same point. And you could do that with like all kinds of bug count data too, right? Like if you just frame it in a different way, you can say something completely different. So I think when you're talking about data, it's important to remember like the way in which you're utilizing it, not just like the concrete facts themselves, because data can be manipulated to make all kinds of terrible points.
Yes, correlation and causation are two very, very important things to understand with that too. Anything else we want to touch on for the defect prevention, escape defects episode?
Trevor is one of those few people that can talk about data and you're excited all the way through from the beginning to the end. So just go back to that episode and watch the points where Trevor speaks. It's awesome. Like you cannot, like I feel guilty if I need to pick one of the things that he said, because everything that he said was pure gold.
High praise.
Just go there and watch it. It's really cool. I would like to have just have like a 3-hour underground QA podcast when you just put Trevor and he just speaks. I just want that.
Wow. Trevor, if you're listening, high praise.
Yes.
Well, Trevor time brought to you by the Underground QA.
Yeah.
The moment of Trevor. Anything else?
A very
before we
special
move
moment with Trevor. Yeah.
One thing it just slipped my mind. Never mind.
Okay, that's okay. If it comes back to you, we can.
I remember. Yeah. So Trevor and I were talking about that episode afterwards, and one of the things that we realized is that we just did not do a very good job of defining like some of the terms that we were using at the outset. And like looking back, I wish we had done that a little bit better. But I think like most of them could be picked up through context. But it was something I made a note to myself for the future. Like when we're doing episodes where we're talking about like very specific industry terms, it's good to like explain them at the outset so everyone's on the same page, because we are like, focused on helping people learn. So, but anyway, the episode overall was great anyway. I just thought it was interesting that we kind of forgot to define some core terms.
It happens. It definitely happens. So I think the spiciest topic that we can talk about is test case management tools. And the reason why it's spicy is because they're all terrible.
Oh, yes, we did it.
Wow.
True.
But, in reality, we talked about more of that on that episode. So let's talk about some highlights from test case management tools and lowlights.
For me, it
bad.
was how much stuff is there. Like I always forget when doing research for that podcast, when you were talking about all those different kinds of software test management tools, was the amount that there is. Like I think it was like 30 or 40 around. So I think that the main takeaway of this is there are a lot of products, and you don't have to just focus on the main big guys. So go out for shopping and find one that fits best you, and figure out what fits best you, and then just pick that. I think that's the biggest for me takeaway of that episode.
Yeah. I think there's a certain like approach you should take to like looking at tools and searching for a specific tool that you want to use, whether you're looking for a bug like management tool, a test case management tool, or anything along those lines. Like, or also if you're looking at different outsourcing vendors and stuff like that, you should be looking at how well are those tools going to fit your situation, because just because you like one tool at one company doesn't mean it'll be a good fit for another company you work at later. Like every situation is a little bit different. The people you're working with are different. So I thought I liked in those episodes when we were talking about how to look for the right kind of tool, because I think a lot of those lessons are applicable to any kind of tool you're looking at, not just test case management tools.
Yeah, the idea, like thinking about what tool is going to give you what you need right out of the box with little overhead versus what kind of tools you're going to need to do some customization to based on what their API allows, and what do you actually have time and the infrastructure to devote to doing that. Like if you can just throw Zephyr in with Jira, I mean, like, okay, this works, it's all integrated, let's go, and then go from there, and that covers what you need, awesome. Or if you really want to get buck wild with TestRail and start really making custom fields and really getting nuts with scripts going through the API, then great, provided you have the infrastructure to support that.
Can I give something that's very spicy? Because
Spice away.
Yes, please.
Test tools tend to dominate conversations as soon as we get to test cases from test management. And I would say for me personally, the tools are very boring. I classify them as enabling technology because there's nothing sexier than having clear aligned goals and what it means for success and what it means for failure, for everyone to be aligned and understand and accept that and work toward that purpose. The enabling technology is the way to do that and scale it.
I would say much
So when
less
someone asks
spicy
me
and
what-
much more amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Myron.
Yeah. So when
When
someone talks about tools, I'm like, all right, what are your goals? What does success mean? What does failure mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to recommend you spend a single dime until you understand those things, because you're going to fail. And then I'm going to be responsible for that. And I will not make you fail.
I love that.
I will watch you fail.
Nice.
I will not help you fail.
I love that.
Yeah, after we do 4 hours with Trevor, then we have to do 4 hours with Myron, please.
I think that's fair.
Yes. Myron, is a legitimate certified coach, so we can make this happen. Community, reach out. Let's get some coaching going on. So we'll do the thing. I have actually been coached by Myron. I strongly recommend. So if you personally are watching this, don't feel bad about reaching out to a Myron man and saying, "Hey, I want some coaching." I want to take the opportunity to thank our guests from this year's episode and each of you that are sitting on this panel, and each of you sitting in that Twitch channel, and each of you who are sitting in your car mowing your lawn or doing whatever you're doing, listening to the podcast wherever you do. We
Chelsea
would not
just
be
likes
here.
to imagine people listening to our podcast in different scenarios.
I do. Let's see. My most common are like, I'm going to the grocery store and I don't want to think about anything too intense, but I want to hear a good conversation. So yeah, if you're on the way to the grocery store right now and you're thinking about, don't forget to get the bell peppers, I'm talking to you directly and I'm saying thank you. And Marcin's imagining be going to the grocery
Someone's
store
walking
right
past bell peppers right now, and they're like,
Whoa.
Chelsea Curran Adams, you got me in this moment. Yep. So I mow my lawn with my car. I don't know what that means. That was a comment in the chat right now. I don't know what that means. I'm not going to go there, but I am going to say thank you to whoever you are, whether you're mowing your lawn with your car or for getting your bell
You're
peppers.
welcome.
We're here for you.
Just don't make too many donuts in there. They'll call the authorities on you.
Oh, yeah.
It's my lawn.
the
I
2-minute
can
rule?
ruin it if I want to.
The 2-minute rule.
No.
Like people will watch and assume that you're trying to go somewhere for 2 minutes, and then they're like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
The vagabond over there.
I think Chris is in like Cary, North Carolina as well, which is very conscious about people doing donuts in their yard. So
HOAs, man.
the U.S.'s safest community does not allow you to mow your lawn with your car, sir. I happen to know this.
You
So-
do you.
know this, sir.
Okay, so I've spent time thanking you. There's not enough ways to thank you, but one thing we did do this year was we did put out some merch so that you can rep for us and show your appreciation. A good amount of us are wearing our merch right now on the show if you're not tuning in via video. We had the lovely Brutal Bohemian Zach Bender do our first round of merch and logos. We were happy to give that to the community, and 100% of the proceeds, and when I say that, I mean 100%. We do not get a cent. We don't take a cent from selling this stuff. It all goes to the Girls Who Code and the Trevor Project. We're very close, within $4 of raising $200 for those charities. We're very proud of it. And whether or not you buy some, I just want you to know it's out there. Video game professionals, we want you to wear our stuff. We want you to submit designs. We would love for you to tell us what we need to do next. So hop in the comments section and let us know what we're missing in terms of merch, and we will gladly make it happen. Maybe we should make onesies. I feel like that's a thing.
I would say that I actually would love to get this as a poster. I don't know if we already have that
Oh,
or
we
not.
do have it. Hold on.
Yeah, we do. We absolutely do.
Oh, Marcin literally has it on
Bam.
his wall, and so does Chelsea. I need to get that. That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, go grab it. You can get a framed or an unframed version on the website right now.
It looks awesome.
It does. It really does. I need to move it down so that y'all can see it when I'm streaming.
Yeah,
okay.
you do.
Yeah, I do. Okay, we also had an amazing amount of growth this year in our discussion hours and digital Discord events. Ariel and I think Sarah were the main growers of those events outside of the cast themselves. So huge thanks. And we do these events to kind of get folks together. There have been several discussions. I think we even did we do a game night? We talked about it. But we have tried to promote the community getting together. If you're listening to this, you can make events too. We're here for you. Just let us know and we'll put it on the schedule. But we want you to be there together.
I was going to plug exactly that at the end, but I would love to have other folks helping out with like organizing some in Discord events, whether that's like, I don't know, playing a game together or watching a video about QA and then kind of live reacting together, or just doing discussion groups. I got a lot of value out of the discussion groups we had about topics before we talked about them on the show, because it gave us a lot of really good ideas of things that we should bring up, and people had some really good insight there. So I definitely want to do more of those next year. But I would like to expand and do some other non-discussion group events, like, I don't know, playing games together or something like that. I had thought about maybe we could have a Grandma's Boy night, but then I watched it and I was like, absolutely not. No one should watch this movie.
Did not age.
Oh my God. So to tell
Very
you,
bad.
I told our consultant to watch that movie, and I didn't think about it, and then he watched it, and he was like, I can't. And I was like, it's fine. He has great humor about it, but I was like, if you ever want history on why the game industry is the way that it is, maybe you should watch this movie. And
I want to make a video about that movie. I've been thinking about it and plotting a script in my head. I'm thinking I might do it over the winter break.
Legitimately, though, I have heard that they went to it was either Activision or EA basement testers section and basically interviewed them and watched them. So I can't remember. I think it might have been Activision, but based off of true events in some cases.
That's
we
an
want
indictment of the game industry more than anything.
Right?
That's saying some stuff about early 2000s game development.
Interestingly, I'm going to say that flows really well into our next part of the conversation, which is we asked the community a set of 5 questions. I know you've gotten tired of me posting my face on social media asking you questions, but thank you for those of you who responded. But basically, we wanted to check in with you to see how you felt. And I'm going to skip forward because Ariel, you mentioned an indictment of the game industry, and one of the questions was what have been the biggest wins for or by quality professionals this year? And one of those, a big topic this year has been unionization and the conversation around making sure we have better work ethics and better work principles and better workers' rights around the industry has been big. Raven's QA unionized this year. Blizzard Albany's QA team also unionized. And I think the industry overall saw a lot of contracted QA get converted to full-times in places like ABK, Epic Games. I know that there are probably some other studios that did this. And it's good to see companies retain QA, not necessarily good to see companies have internal struggles, ABK being the one that has been probably the most public this year in terms of that. Oh, I see ZeniMax is voting on their union right now, too. How do y'all feel based on, the community question was biggest wins for or by quality professionals? We're talking about the unionization and separately the hiring of full-time folks from contract positions. What do y'all feel?
So, I wanted to jump in with a take. I think this year the biggest advancement of quality professionals in the gaming space is that quality professionals in the gaming space exist now. This year is the year that quality professionals were acknowledged as existing. And
That's a great way to put it.
Then
Great
the
way to
rest
frame
of the
it.
work began to be feasible from that point.
Quality professionals
And I
are
think that
people,
we had
too,
a
to
big-
rephrase something you
Yes.
said years ago, Myron.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that
Yeah.
one time you asked, well, what is the biggest fallacy that people think about QA professionals? And it is that we are not brilliant people because we do QA. And it was not
Ooh.
seen as an entry-level position with being CEO as the end.
Yeah.
Remember, Chris, we had that conversation, and you were
Yeah,
like, well, I was
I
thinking
remember
about
that.
being a director. And I was like, me too, until yesterday. My boss, he told me aside, and he was like, yo, I hired you because I see you running this much of this fucking shit. And I was like, oh. Weird. But yeah.
That realization, yeah, that's true. That all culminates to acknowledging QA as a real discipline. with real responsibilities and roles and importance within the development process.
And the ability to improve, right? We are
Exactly.
not simply testers. I don't want to say just testers because that removes the immense responsibility and weight that puts on those folks. But there is more to quality assurance than testing. So, something I've been saying a lot, and I've given a couple of talks this year, quality assurance doesn't equal testing. Testing doesn't equal quality. None of those things are equal. The fact that studios are beginning to recognize this and that workers are beginning to recognize this when their studios don't has been a big win for professionals this year.
Let them
Coming from
know.
a country where unions fought and won with Soviet Union and the importance of unions as a whole. Even though, I'm very glad that America caught up again with the unions because I think with history you had strong unions and then it collapsed. So now I'm very glad that it's coming back. But even though Europe has a lot of industry unions, the American culture is so strong that it poisons all the discussions. So what Myron said, even though Europe is looking like, oh yeah, you caught up, it's still super important because the American influence over the whole industry is super massive. So having that win is a very big win for QA.
I would also say we haven't caught up. We're maybe starting to, but the conversation has shifted from, QA testers are treated like dog shit, and that's just normal and part of the job, to QA testers are treated like dog shit, and hey, maybe we should do something about that. Maybe we should actually change it and fight for better conditions.
Well, I'm sorry, Eric. Go ahead and finish your point.
And I don't mean that that in the sense of quality professionals haven't been having those discussions, but the media has caught up and is now talking about it the way we're talking about it. And that's I think what I see as the main difference when we say quality professionals are being treated like actual people now, is they're being talked about like human beings instead of cattle in the media.
Yeah. Naming it makes it super important to make that change. And naming it is the only thing that makes it possible for a class of people, entities, if you will. It is the main reason that entities can switch from advocacy plays to equity plays. Here's the difference. We're all walking out because this company has been a nightmare. So much so that every female who's ever worked in the history of this company is getting at least $5,000. That's advocacy. That changes nothing. Equity is the people who realize they have the power because it's named, and they just begin voting in a very organized fashion. And we don't have to tell what our goals are because our goals are what we are entitled to. So we will explain our goals when we are ready. But first, we are going to change everything about how we operate in this system. That is an equity play. You have to name things before you can do that. That's why that was so important this year.
Yes.
Agreed.
I'm not sure we can follow that up with anything, so I don't know that I
Moving
want to.
on.
That was a hell of a capstone.
We talked about some consolidation in some major companies this year. The conversations have been pretty big, and in the U.S. continuing and moving over to Europe, we have another big consolidation, legal battle going on currently. Sending our love to our friends at Activision Blizzard who are currently going through all of this. We've seen one of our other cast members this year has gone through an acquisition as well. Recently is probably still going through acquisition. Ariel, you're currently in the throes of that, or not. Maybe it's gone smoothly.
That's pretty much wrapped up in a done deal now.
Well, there you go. So there's been a lot of acquisition and centralization, consolidation. Anything there that we want to touch on?
I would like to highlight, at least in my mind, depending on the situation, it could be. I think overall, I think we discussed this, Chelsea, where there's this homogenous kind of thing going on where everybody works for the same 3 game developers, and you don't get as much creativity, that diversity of creativity around in games coming out. But for me, the way I look at it is it could help a few of the more struggling communities of game development where studios have just tanked and disappeared, kind of reform a bit and get those studios the legs that they need, get the people in those areas more like opportunities to get work instead of scraping by on bouncing from indie to indie and hoping to get some notoriety, to actually be like, hey, I can get in with a larger studio that's a little more solvent and can get some work that I can use and get the skills that I need, make the connections, and then go from there. I speak mainly of like Boston industry just collapsed in on itself some years ago due to all sorts of ridiculous things. And seeing larger companies like Blizzard, Epic, and CD Projekt Red acquire those studios, it initially seems a little scary, but I really think that it's helping kind of bring more people into there, awaken all those others that were left the game industry because those studios, either they were laid off from the studios that were there, or they just couldn't get work because the studios were too small. Now have an opportunity to get pulled in, learn some of the skills, especially from like AAA, and then be able to grow those local industries back. That's my very pie in the sky, rose-colored glasses kind of way of looking at it, but I don't know, I have some hope for at least that section.
I also
Yeah, I
think
think
that like
go ahead.
leaning more into having more remote workers is going to kind of help create, game dev communities in a lot of different places that there wouldn't be otherwise. Because if you don't have to leave Boston when the Boston game industry dries up and go somewhere where the jobs actually are, then people will stick around and those communities can continue to exist and thrive. So I'm hopeful
sticking around. That's a great way to
helps.
put it.
Something interestingly that came up, in the same question that what are the biggest wins for buy quality professionals this year? We had William Bush comment in LinkedIn that the mainstreaming of remote work is making it way easier to put together strong teams from diverse backgrounds. It's no longer location hiring pools. We can reach into any market to find the best testers and analysts for our projects. Secondary bonus is that not having centralized teams with huge device libraries is forcing QA to approach work with better risk assessment and leverage remote and international outsourced teams more effectively. I think that's an interesting factor for consolidation. Like, we're looking at consolidation. New indies break off because they're not happy with the consolidated culture. But those folks who are in Boston, or we've seen the rise of employing folks in the South of the United States. We've seen a rise in Eastern European employment in some spaces because we're able to employ folks that we would not normally have been able to because of the remote work situation. Do y'all have any take on the remote work add in all the topics that we've just talked about, unionization, consolidation, all of that stuff? How do you feel?
Good. For all those reasons.
Yeah. As a hiring manager, I would say that I'm really excited about the fact that we have remote work on the table, because the pool of candidates is just so much more diverse, and there's so many more opportunities to find people that are better fits for the roles that I'm hiring for, instead of having to take what I can get locally. Not to say that there aren't great folks in Seattle. I just wanted to say it opens up a lot of doors to be able to cast a wider net, for sure.
And relocation is no longer a thing, not only an expense for the company, but for the people to completely upend their lives and move to another area of the country that they never saw themselves going to or don't want to live in due to a multitude of reasons. That completely takes that whole thing off the table.
Yeah,
because that's a huge thing, that relocation bit.
There are people that used to not be able to work in games because they couldn't relocate, and now they can, and that's awesome.
Yep.
And so I wanted to make that point. Before we started, Marcin asked me, because it's the first time we've talked, about gaming, but he was actually asking me what I'm playing, I think. But I talked about the fact that I've actually received offers a couple times in my career, and the most germane one is the reason I'm not working on games right now is because I couldn't relocate.
Yep.
And that was even during COVID.
Yeah.
Like relocation was so important to the organization. And so this is why equity plays are so important. All of a sudden, people can be hybrid in the game industry. And it's because of the people who own the industry. They don't see people who play for a living, verb, as responsible enough to not be in the room locked in with adults.
I think there's an interesting perspective to that, which is one thing that I worry about with this is that the youngest generation, not meaning young in age, but the newest generation to come in, are we setting them up for a longer journey because they're not sharing the information the same way? One challenge that I've seen is being in the room with someone and having communication is vastly different. There is a communication effort that this medium, you and me sitting through cameras, has been. And so that I think that that's still a difficult challenge, is mentorship through a camera, group education through a camera. We haven't quite gotten it yet. And I definitely agree with your approach, Myron, that sitting people with the adults in the room, that's bad. But I also don't know that we've solved the soft skills need for being in a community. And that is, I'm so hopeful that AR and VR will one day bring that, so that I don't feel like I am at a detriment, that, I want to be able to be in the room, and I'm not beginning my career, but I feel the deficit of that. So I can't imagine at the lowest, parts of my career, in my mental state, or at the beginning of my career, how it would be to feel other by not being in person.
Yeah, I also want to follow up on that a little bit, because I think it is so much worse for junior folks as opposed to senior folks, because senior folks, you tend to have a lot of meetings on your docket for the week, right? So you do see a lot of people, right? You're having lots of one-on-ones, you're having lots of like management syncs and stuff like that. So triage meetings, there's all kinds of meetings that you're having. And your more junior testers maybe only have like a team meeting and a couple of stand-ups, and then they're one-on-one. That might be it, right? Unless you're actively like trying to find ways for them to connect with their coworkers in like a proactive sense. And I've seen people really kind of struggle because they're not able to connect with people on a regular basis in their job. Like I've had a job where I had like 2 meetings a week, and that was all of my like human connection that was getting driven from outside. So I had to like really make sure that I was connecting with other people proactively, so that I didn't feel really like alone, essentially. So I just want to call out that like I encourage you all to check on your junior folks and make sure that they feel like they're actually a part of your broader like company community, and like make sure they feel like they're getting enough human connection. It's very possible that they're not.
Truth.
I think that's a. Oh, sorry. Please go ahead, Myron, because I have a
go
completely
for it,
different.
because I've spoken already, so you go for it, man.
I think that's a whole kind of discussion for an episode, I think, because I have a lot of thoughts about what all of you said, because I joined Ubisoft Kiev during COVID, so I had to build a team totally remotely. So we haven't seen each other as a team till after like 6 or 7 months. And that comes for even young people. So I think the youngest person in my team is 22. We have people that are 47. So, and I think, and even though I agree that we still, as an industry, we still don't know how to perfectly handle the situation, I think it's just a matter of preference. There are people that love being at the office with people, and that's totally fine. There are people that love just being, at home, and I have those people that basically just give me home and webcams and all that stuff and anything else. And there's something in between. They're like, I want to be 2 or 3 days, but I get tired of people. But I think I don't necessarily think you need to have on site or be in the room with people to get a great bonding or get a great teamwork. So, but I totally agree that we need to find the perfect, a proper standardized way to make sure that we are, have the best ways for all the perspectives in that space.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing. So for anyone, there's one other aspect of the in-person that I have to bring up. So I'm neurodivergent as fuck. And I will tell you, going to an office, the color of the light can turn me into a like a Tasmanian devil. My eyes literally stop working if they're irritated by light.
Really? Is it? Sorry to jump in. Is it like a spectrum of light? Is it like
Yes,
blue versus
absolutely.
like a yellow? Really?
It's like the really large halon bulbs that they used to put in like Barnes and Nobles or like very large bookstores.
Yeah.
Very cheap, very bright, very low refresh rate. Hurts. It's probably as far as down as the frequency of the electromagnetic light that reflects off of the elements. I think it is that specific.
That is wild.
My eyes stop working, and I become inconsolable. So for a person like me,
wow,
being in the office is actually torture.
Yeah.
And so neurodivergent people are suffering everywhere. Because in 1985, Apple said we need to think different to build this world, and we built the world, and we hid the people that did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even to add that, I have a person that is, how do you say it? She doesn't, like, physically, she got an allergic reaction to sunlight. Like, we had to, during the war in Ukraine, when we wanted to relocate people, we wanted to relocate to Poland, and she was like, can I not do that because it's higher up, so more sun exposure, therefore, she prefers just staying at home because she's allergic to sunlight.
Mm-hmm. And it can be as simple as having an accent. That's neurodiversity too, because your brain is forming your phoneme in a certain way. And some people, when they go to an office with an accent that sounds funny, they literally from the first day are put in the category of someone who's not going to have career development.
Yep.
And they're expected to go there every single day. And it's only their responsibility to manage how they're treated with no support. There are people suffering every single day in every field, including this one. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yep.
That's the hot take.
Agreed.
It's not a hot take. It's,
that's not hot
it's
at all.
humanity.
It's
so
real.
I appreciate bringing it
It's
up.
real.
We actually haven't done an episode on neurodiversity in games. Maybe we should.
We should do that. Yeah, I think there's a two-part aspect to that, which is neurodiversity as a worker and neurodiversity and accessibility in gaming. And we should have, both discussions as a player and as a worker, what those things look like. So, spoilers, we're looking for 2023 ideas.
And in terms of how it's represented in the content itself as well.
Yes.
And I could have a guest for that.
Y'all. So not to change the topic off of something that we're all very passionate about, but we need to keep moving. So we've had a lot of layoffs and studio closures this year, and we're sending our hearts out to our friends in the community and those of you who are now at one of the hardest times of year, the holidays, also business shutdowns, a time that is traditionally, at least in American and lots of European cultures, of a time for celebration and togetherness. There are folks out there looking for jobs. There have been a lot of layoffs recently in the software industry as a whole, tens of thousands of jobs. So we're sending out our hearts to studios and those who have had layoffs. Please reach out in the community. We have an opportunities channel. We would love for you to say, hey, I need some help, because we have folks who are definitely hiring. I know, Ariel, you are hiring. Chris and I are hiring. Marcin, I'm not sure what your hiring situation is. We are here for you. And please reach out to the community. It's a very challenging time of year. Myron's sending out hearts. We're all sending out hearts. So please reach out. We're here to help. Marcin, you brought up something else, which is the war in Ukraine and the effects on game development. There's no one better to speak to the topic, I think, in this room than you. Is there anything you want to bring up, plug, or talk about with us that we can discuss? Deep breath.
Well, I always have this problem with talking about this stuff, just because there's never good words about that. So the things I can say that people like Ukrainians are the toughest motherfuckers in the world. I have never worked with such passionate people, and the resolve of even to showcase you, like the Ubisoft is it's not like just having the Ubisoft studios in Ukraine being put on like maintenance mode. The amount of workload that is being happened despite all that's happening, Ubisoft is more harder investing in Ubisoft Ukraine because of how much they're dedicated and how much output they can show during those times. And please support Ukraine. There are a lot of developers, not only in Ukraine. There's the whole, sorry, Ukrainians, but there's also the whole situation in Belarus and Russia as well. A lot of developers from both Belarus and Russia as well moved off. So the war is impacting out. Like we have also, countries being impacted around Russia. It was a main power in the Eurasia, so it has ripples across other countries, and those have game dev as well. So please support Ukraine, because you're supporting for everybody else, for Europe and for the whole world. So please support Ukraine. There are a lot of, and again, Ukrainians are awesome. All those people in the industry from East and Eurasia are awesome. So please, if you see people from those countries looking for work, you can't have a better worker than those from those countries.
Yes. Thank you so much. I had asked Marcin in one of our channels how best to support Ukrainian developers and Ukrainian people. Take a look in the Discord channel. We have, he very kindly listed out some charities that you can give to directly that affect people directly. And just as a note, we're approaching the coldest time of year. There are people all across Eastern Europe who are suffering from not having access to funds, clothes, the ability to heat, and Western Europe may shortly be going through the motions of not having the energy to support themselves either through the winter. When possible, give very directly, and know that the community here is standing with you and will do whatever we can. We're 10 months into this. We're very close to the year mark, and now more than ever, the immediate threat feels like we have taken the gas pedal off of the support. Please keep sending and supporting, even with words, that we're here standing with folks going through a very difficult time.
And I was going to say, Chelsea, it's not impossible for people to help. I just recently added 2 cats to my family, and they were super important for me when they arrived and they joined us. And so I need to buy cat toys. And there are a lot of builders and crackers in Ukraine who are looking for hope, who want their purpose in life validated. And the wooden crafts that are being able to buy, handcrafted from real wood by artisans in Ukraine.
Yes.
So Americans, you know how to buy shit. You know what to do. Because even when you have no clothes and you're holding your family, you have to submit to charity organizations. And in the worst moment of your life, you have to prove that you are worthy of support and have no agency over your future. And so people who are going through things like that need agency more than anything else.
Yes. Reach out on Etsy, reach out on Patreon. There are direct ways to give. Myron, thank you so much for those plugs. Paste those toys into the channel so folks can know where to buy them. And, we'll be looking to each one of you to seeing how we can help keep posting your support in all of the socials. I hate to change to a topic that feels more trivial, but we're moving forward. And we're going to talk about some breakout hits from the year. We saw things like, it's vampires, honestly, and cats.
Oh, yeah.
So vampires and cats were the breakout hits of the year, whether it was V Rising or Vampire Survivors or Stray, and lots of Neko-themed games that are all over the app stores. We're late to the bunch here, too, because in Western culture, there are just so many darn cat games that are just arriving to our shores. But do y'all have any thoughts on Vampire Survivors, V Rising, Stray, any other Neko or cat-oriented games that you want to talk about real quick?
I mean, I was looking forward to V Rising. Like, it kind of just popped up in my feed months, so long before, maybe almost a year before it actually came out. And I got super excited. I was like, this looks great. It looks like got that top-down Diablo kind of feel. Almost like, actually, this is better correlation. Don't Starve, but with vampires. And you could just, like, eat people and build a castle. Like, I'm in. Give me that gothic shit into my veins. I need it. And I was just chomping at the bit. And then Vampire Survivors showed up. I was like, cool. This will give me that feel and something to fill the time until I can build my castle. Vampires had a time early 2022.
They did.
So happy.
Chris is a very good survival game partner, by the way. If you're looking for someone who's going to support the community, Chris kept my castle alive for way longer than he should have while I was away on vacation.
I was busy, like I said. Oh, no, I was depositing blood into the heart of everyone's castle to make sure it stayed up while they were offline.
Yeah, 4 of us were offline for vacation, and he kept our castles in immaculate condition.
So I actually struggle to play a lot of survival games now because I can't really do the like super repetitive actions for a very long time that survival games require, like chopping wood, for example. Like I used to chop wood for hours in survival games. I can't do that anymore because it's just too repetitive and it just causes strain on my muscles. So I have to like do things that don't require the same action over and over again with my mouse hand. So, Chris, if you're good at chopping wood, then I would love to play a survival game with you.
I'm telling you that it's one of those things. Like, this is a good conversation about like how do you change game like button input and controller requirements so that way these kind of like resource gathering tasks in these games aren't gonna give you tendinitis.
Honestly, like I think this needs to be a bigger conversation in terms of like making controls that don't harm the user if they play them too much. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Yes.
I hurt my thumb.
Get those
I hurt my
bells.
thumb, bro.
Yeah, that's
Compared
real.
to Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Like, and this is only gonna become a bigger issue because we went from having games be kind of for a very like specific group of folks to being games are for everyone now. Like that's I think that's the one thing that's really changed in the last couple of decades. Is now games are for everyone. Everyone's playing games. Everyone is like causing damage and strain to their hands and arms and eyes too by playing games. So
And ears.
I think we as an industry we really need to start thinking about this and start pushing control design in a way that does not cause damage to the user because it's only going to get worse.
Yep,
Yeah. Accessibility matters for everyone.
it does.
Yeah.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
I'm sorry. It's a moment to notice that accessibility helps everyone.
it does.
Yeah, exactly.
It does. Also, who did not want to watch people's cat reaction videos of Stray to go to our other breakout hit? If you have not watched the billions of TikToks, Instagram stories, or YouTube videos of people's cats reacting to Stray, best thing, go look at it right now. It's no wonder that it was not only a breakout hit for humans, but also for cats. There are traumatic moments. I'm not going to do any spoilers. But there are intense cat reactions to some very stressful moments in Stray. So go look at Cat Reacts to Stray. I'm going to move this forward. Yeah, well,
I will happily upload the videos I have of Wellington watching me play.
He's just the best gentleman.
He had a time.
Crossover in TV games. We're going to close out 2022 by, I think, talking about one of the biggest things is we're finally seeing successful franchises going from games to film happen. I say successful, and it's because they're accepted in the mainstream, not to dig on the old Mario movie, which is one of my favorites of all times, and I don't care what you say. But
that's just a great movie. I will stand by that.
Yes.
It's a good movie. The elevator
It's a
scene
movie.
with the Koopas, love it.
It ages
But-
much better than Grandma's Boy too.
Truth. But also, we finally started to see this transition. We've had Arcane, The Witcher, Cyberpunk, Critical Role, Queen's Gambit board game, Cuphead TV show, and The Last of Us announcement on HBO, and so many more things that we can't, we missed stuff. I know we missed stuff. There's been a lot of crossover. So what makes you excited about this? And then in just a couple minutes, we're going to move to our lightning round. So let's make this a quick one.
I mean, Cyberpunk Edgerunners was amazing. Regardless of the fact that it was a video game tie-in, it was just a good show. And so I think that what got me really excited about that was just that the idea that we could actually have high quality content that's video game related, and seeing a really amazing example of that got me really excited for the future. Because we've had video game television and video game movies for a long time, but most part it hasn't really appealed to anyone except the folks who are really into that particular game. But Edgerunners, I think, has brought appeal to anyone who's interested in cyberpunk, the cyberpunk genre and anime.
Well, I want to add to that I would like to see instead of an anime. And also, it was Studio Trigger. Like, Studio Trigger cannot fuck up an anime, so Edgerunners were destined to be successful. But I would like to see a movie, just because, usually when people feel cyberpunk, it's always that gloomy, Blade Runner-y, when you have that detective-esque vibe, like the cyberpunk noir style. While cyberpunk is, sunny, it's like playful, it's like crazy. So I would like to see a full, action movie film. But yeah, anime was great, but I want a full-blown movie out of it.
Edgerunners is much more neon lights than gray blob on brown blob style.
That was the problem that people had with Cyberpunk when they announced it. Oh my god, you have sun in your Cyberpunk? That's not Cyberpunk. And look, it's a great game. It's a great setting.
What I really love is that it's taking these worlds and this artistic direction and these characters that those of us in the gaming community and so into gaming have loved and enjoyed and have talked about with each other. It now brings them out to a completely different audience and a new audience that wouldn't have normally seen these characters and the designs of these worlds, and can help bring these other communities and these groups of people together and talk more about something that they love. Like, people who love the Witcher books and the video game, then they bring in a whole group of people that have watched those 2 seasons of The Witcher with Henry Cavill in it. Oh man, you can have these awesome conversations about witches and all that stuff. What was that?
Just broke my heart with the Henry Cavill.
I'm so sorry. There's still one more season. With him. Sir. Anyways, but it's just like bringing everything that we as people who have enjoyed video games into bringing the other things that we love into conversations we can have with people at the table with our families who might not really play video games, but oh boy, are they jazzed about this new zombie show that's coming out on HBO called The Last of Us.
Yep. It'll be very interesting to see. And I'm interested to see the reverse happen as well. We're seeing things like Hogwarts Legacy pop into the game industry, where we've had immensely popular, and Lord of the Rings has been doing this forever. This is not new, but we're having a new generation of modern literature pop into games, and so it will be interesting to see how Hogwarts Legacy goes. I know there's a ton of controversy around it. We will see more of this kind of thing, of these crossovers of media happening, and the enrichment of IP. And I think Arcane was an excellent example of IP enrichment through a story. Whereas Edgerunners there was a kind of a parallel, but we're seeing things like Arcane and The Witcher show the storyline of what's going on that we don't get out of the game necessarily. So it's very interesting to see that. Okay, lightning round. What game would you like to see adapted into film next? And I'm going to popcorn to Chris first. Chris, I know. What would you like to see?
The look. Chris, oh shit.
Damn. Okay. You know what I would like to see as a series? And I would like to see it multiple seasons. It would be Elder Scrolls.
Ooh. Yes.
That's what I would want to see. I would want to see a season devoted to each section, similar to how each game is devoted to a different section of that world.
I love this idea. Big floaty jellyfish creatures in my future. Marcin, what you got?
Well, if Cyberpunk is cheating because we have edge runners,
You can say it again, though. Is there another part of the story that you'd want to see?
well,
You just want more Keanu Reeves.
that's true, but
I mean, that's
we
a
can't get
universal
too much of
fact.
Keanu Reeves. But I think, because I want to, I want a sunny Cyberpunk. I don't want always the same flavor of Cyberpunk. So if we can get Cyberpunk, then please go ahead and make Cyberpunk.
You want it in like chibi happy form? Like, would you do a chibi cyberpunk?
Yeah, if you watch the anime space, there's a whole series that they made from 4 isekais. Isekais are animes where the protagonist is moved to another world. There's a whole thing when they got all characters from the main isekais into a school settings when there are basically small chibi cute characters and have stories with them. Yeah, sure. Let's go cyberpunk like that. Why not?
Cyberpunk high
In a school setting,
I'm into
forget all those heists, killing. Let's make Keanu Reeves as a rocker trying to finish school.
I love it. Myron, what do you want to see?
I'd like to see Astria Ascending. It is a game that is. I just think that the message of what the game was actually is way different than the delivery, kind of like Crackdown 3. So it's a brilliant game, but it was sold strategically. It omitted that it wasn't a 4-player game, whereas Crackdown 2 was a 4-player game. Anyway, but I would like to see Astria Ascending because I would like to see what lead actor they put in the role to just pull off the sexiness. And it could be literally anything. Like any whether it be female or male or whether it be anything else, but they need to find an entity that communicates the sexiness of the main character in that game. Challenge.
I like it.
The art direction in this game is wild.
Right.
The color palettes are so good and diverse. Damn.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm in.
Ariel.
And I'm queer now also, so that's why I'm like, look, if the person's sexy enough, I'm in. Let's get it. I realize that I'm queer. I didn't just
Good for you.
buy it in the store. So, buy it. I didn't order it from Amazon and shit. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to walk back and explain that a little bit. So I'm not afraid of talking about
That 2-day
sexiness.
delivery.
It doesn't count until you have the flag. Once you have the flag for whatever, then it counts. I didn't really feel
get
trans
that flag with
until I
2-day
had my
delivery.
yeah, I didn't really feel trans until I had my trans pride bathrobe. But now that I do,
Right.
right there.
Can I just wear
literally
the
wrap
universal
yourself
shield and then say I'm somewhere in here? Is that a possibility? Because I can't. I really the flags. I feel I need. That's perhaps an episode that we should talk about, which is sexuality in gaming and identification has been abysmal in protagonists, and it's quite disgusting, honestly. But we talk about this and we laugh because it's real pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say
And-
one game that tackles this stuff pretty well that I would love to see in other media is Hades. I would love to see a Hades miniseries. I would be all over that for sure. And lots of really awesome queer characters in that.
The dialogue in that game, though.
Yeah. But speaking of dialogue, the actual franchise I would love to see turned into media that I was going to say is Disco Elysium. Mainly because I am
Yes.
so curious to see who they would get to play the detective.
What
whose
a
name I won't say because I don't want
story.
him to spoil. But I really like the idea of whoever you get to play that detective also playing all of the voices that talk to him. And I think the only person who I can think of who has the range to do that is obviously Nicolas Cage. So I really want to see
Y'all.
a Nicolas
God.
Cage Disco Elysium movie,
I mean, that's brilliant.
miniseries
Oh my
show,
God.
anything along those
It will be
lines.
good.
I would be all over that.
Sarah, can we tweet this clip out later directly to Nick Cage to make this happen?
Yes, and Disco Elysium. Make sure you're talking to them.
Yes. Sarah, I expect this clip to happen and for us to make sure we get his people in touch with their people. I love this idea. So,
One thing, I'm sorry, Chelsea,
fine.
once again, I want to underscore how amazingly powerful that point is that you made, Ariel. Because I had that discovery this year that I'm queer, and I've always really been attracted to men, like to the point where I am not able to function in front of a very attractive man, because I've never had training on how to comport myself professionally and communicate to people who are gorgeous. I've had that for women only. I had that for 26, 27, 28 years in a row. And so I know how to do it. But now I can start doing it because I understand what is happening. And so it is a trivial thing, but there is a very important piece that happens when you put your flag up on the wall. So at least for me,
Yeah,
it
and
seems
also
like it should be more trivial.
metaphorically, but yeah, like just being able to like really start to understand who you actually are will open up so many doors in terms of like the interactions that you're having, because you'll be looking at them through a whole new lens that makes so much more sense and doesn't feel off or wrong for reasons
Yes.
you can't put your finger on.
Safety with yourself versus safety with society versus safety and comfort with your community. Those are all very important things. And there's a great community of folks here who will talk with you about that if you have questions. And I love these people. I can't say it enough. Thank you for sharing your journeys with us. These are wonderful things. So please reach out if you need support. We can direct you to the right places. As many of us have been through a lot of struggles. So again, just to kind of prop the community. For 2023, we have a lot planned. Including, I think, the spiciest topic, which is talking about the ISTQB gaming syllabus. You can expect to have some episodes on that.
Looking
If you
forward
have
to
not,
that so much.
Oh my gosh. If you have not read this
Opinions.
syllabus, you should get a copy in front of you now and start making your spicy comments because we're here for it.
Yeah.
We want you and the community to talk to us about it. I have strong feelings. In fact, I think I was like, what is this? It garnered a lot of conversation. Let's talk about it. We're going to hopefully create some new formats to engage with you. Ariel has talked about it earlier in the episode, but we want to engage with you on different ways. If you have ideas about how you want to engage, you don't necessarily even have to be the person to execute. Although if you want to volunteer to execute on new ways to engage with the community, we're here for it. We are going to try to do an in-person recorded episode this year. That means we're flying to Marcin. No, maybe. Who knows? Whatever. We're going to try and do this year. It's going to be great. We're going to try to get together in the same place or have groups of folks in the same place. And
I have a big couch. You can come to Warsaw. That's fine.
I would love to.
And
Actually,
I
I'm
have a
going to be
cat
in
tree for you
Warsaw
if you
in
want to play with
June.
that.
Perfect.
I'll see you in June, Marcin. We can do an episode. I'm coming to Warsaw.
Excellent. Good.
But there's an opportunity for us all to get together if you are comfortable, and we will have virtual outlets for this. We are working to schedule meetups for GDC in San Francisco. We're working to schedule the Quality Forum in Amsterdam this summer, and we will try to do something regionally. So if you have a place where you want to meet up, let us know. A reminder that the Underground Game QA community is fully voluntarily funded, meaning we don't have a business entity. There's no corporate card here. We're all funding this out of the space in our heart. And so we would love to be able to expand this community, and that means you get involved. We have folks who want to do sponsorship, but we don't want to make the community drowned by sponsors or drowned by people who are trying to get your money. It's voluntary to engage here. We don't expect anything. So pass this along. It's all a community of love. We want to do more merch, and we want you to be on the podcast with us or in the Discord community with us. Hop into the channel, talk with us, come and give your ideas, come and learn. We have a lot of opportunities for, hey, I don't know what I want to do. We want you to come and talk with us. We hope that you'll meet up with us in person, but again, there's no pressure. There are lots of virtual opportunities. And the best thing that you can do is give us a like, give us a share to your friends who are in the community, or even invite to the Discord. Quite honestly, the best thing you can do is just to keep passing us around. We want to continue to grow in the coming years, and maybe one day we will be able to sponsor more things like trainings and opportunities for investment at a professional level, but we're here for you. As we wrap up, I want to make sure to thank each and every one of you listening here or watching, but most of all, Chris, Ariel, Marcin, and Myron. I have been so blessed to have you by my side, and Sarah, you're out there. I've been so blessed to have y'all by my side all year. We've all been going through our own struggles, but it has been a big year for personal development for me, and I couldn't say thank you enough to each of you for helping be your amazing leaders within the industry. I love you. I can say that very confidently. Please make sure you tell your friends that you love them too. It's the best thing that you can do. We don't all have forever. In fact, none of us do. So make sure that you give your thanks whenever you can. We'd also like to thank our audience for listening. We wouldn't be doing this podcast without you. If you have any future suggestions for topics or a bug of the day, we'd love to hear them. And if you're a QA professional and like to be on the podcast, or not a QA professional and you want to come talk about quality or video games or anything you've heard today, we would love to have you. In any case, you can contact us at our email address, which is undergroundgameqaconf. That's CONF, like conference, at gmail.com. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter at undergroundqa. Hop into the Discord. You can get any of us on LinkedIn. We are all there. We would love to talk to you. We'd love to collaborate, and we would love to have you on the show most of all. Let's talk about an inspirational end-of-year plug, each of you. What would you like to leave this episode with, thoughts-wise?
I would like to just remind everyone to please make sure over the next year that you check in on yourself and how you're doing. Especially as Chelsea said, we all have had our own areas of development and struggles here, like whether it's professionally or personally. But please make sure you are taking some time every day to check in on yourself to see that you're getting what you need. Whether it's just getting outside and getting some fresh air, making sure you've had enough water, or making sure that you've had conversations that need to happen or should happen in order to get you where you need to be as a person. So please, especially those of you who are leaders and managers, where your job is to check in on those around you on a regular basis, you can neglect yourself. So please make sure you're reflecting inward, checking in on you to see how you're doing.
I want to follow up on that and what I mentioned earlier, in the sense that I encourage you all to check on the people around you to make sure that they're doing all right. In particular, when I strongly encourage people to check in on new folks at your companies. They tend to be struggling the most because they're so overwhelmed by all of the new stuff that they have to learn and feeling disconnected, in particular in a remote work environment. So I just want to encourage everyone to check on your newbies, make sure they're doing well and they're adjusting well. They probably won't shy away from a little bit of extra attention.
On that note, I guess invest in yourself. That would be my my nugget of wisdom for the past year. I had so many discussions with people about how they handle their own development and the struggles that they're always waiting for their managers or their leaders to do the thing and micromanage them. Don't ever wait on your manager or lead to do that. Invest in yourself as much as you can and prove yourself and show yourself to the world how awesome you are. Because if you don't do that, nobody else will do as a good job as you can do it for yourself.
So mine is, you are the most important thing in your universe. Understanding yourself is the key to achieving any of your goals, because you can simply select the strategies that work best for you, that are affirming for you, and that will help you to do what you do and what you don't want to do. The second point, you are entitled to respect, dignity. You're entitled to those things. You're entitled to safety. And you're entitled to support. Trust is earned, but you're entitled to those things. And so it is never necessary for you to ask for permission to defend yourself. Ever. And if you need help getting the courage to do that, there are coaches out there. There are people like these people in front of you who will help you. That's it.
I want to end the cast with a couple of words from our community for advice and plugs as well. Eda Lee on Twitter said, don't hesitate to give feedback on the features you're working on. Don't belittle your voice because you think you're at the end of the process. You play the game more than most. You're legit to talk to about it with everyone. Sarah says, you're not going to finish every single thing you want to get done, no matter how hard you try. Cry emoji. Prioritize the important stuff. Grant said, don't wait and hope for your current company to give you the opportunities that you desire. Look for something permanent ASAP before you know your contract will be ending. That's hard feedback, but it's a good plug for your protagonist. You're the protagonist of your own story. It's never too late or too early, Jackson says, to start doing what you're passionate about. Brandon says, lack of feedback does not mean lack of value. Challenge your self-consciousness. Send messages that you need to send. Offer the feedback, advice, or whatever else it may be. Even in the worst case, it's okay to annoy people. They understand your intent. And then lastly, Yona said, go and learn to code yourself now because it helps a ton to understand the structure and interconnectedness of bugs and glitches. I want to share a couple of the hopes too people have for 2023. Joe says that the industry realizes that staffing QA with predominantly junior or entry-level positions is just as effective as staffing any other discipline with predominantly junior or entry-level positions. That the value of skill, experience, training, and wisdom and quality assurance is likely as high as any other discipline, and as a whole received commensurate compensation. Joe also stated that the industry will finally recognize that there are entry-level positions in this career path as there are in every career path. And it's a hell of a lot more than just playing the game and reporting defects and errors. Joe, thank you so much. I think those are very, very impactful statements. We had several comments around recognition and fair compensation, and I can tell you that by strongly working together with this community, staying in conversation, communicating regularly, getting the mentorship that you need, asking for help, and coming together, whether it's in a union or just in a professional sense to say, I need support. We're here to help you, and we're so glad to be a part of this community in here. Thanks again for joining us today. Keep playing. Keep testing, and always wash your hands, y'all. Happy 2022, and we look forward to seeing you in 2023. A huge thanks to all of you as we say goodbye for this year and look forward to seeing you next year.
Take care, friends.
Side Timer has a hand washing timer, by the way.